Now this one is held by, now suppose if this is your plasma membrane, okay, this is your cell 1 muscle fiber, and this is your plasma membrane, and from here there are some protein which will hold the actin in place, and these proteins are called as dystropins. These proteins are called as, can you see this dystrophin protein which holds the actin to the plasma membrane. So all these things are held together within the cell of the muscle fiber. Sometimes, I'm sure in this part of the world you may not see, but you may see some of the muscular dystrophy patients. In them, the muscular bulk is not as much as us because the muscle wasting is there due to some reason. That may be genetically. What may happen is dystrophin may be or may not be formed in them. As a bargain, what happens is this protein is not there to hold actin. When it is not held firmly, this actin will not really participate in contraction. If it doesn't really participate in contraction, over a period of time, muscle wasting will be there. To support that, when you go to gym, you pump the iron. After some time, you look at your biceps, it has increased in size. Why? Because you have increased the workload on your muscle, so that muscle has hypertrophy. That means muscle has increased in its size. Remember, I'm just giving you an example. Suppose if your biceps has about 1 million muscle fibers. You start doing the gym or going to the gym and start pumping the iron. Will it increase the muscle fiber size or will it increase the number of muscle fiber?
The size.
All okay. How many of you say it is size? How many of you say it is numbers?
Size.
How many of you say numbers? Okay, you are aware of it now. The thing is, muscle size increases, muscle number remains the same always. Muscle size increases, muscle number remains the same. So because we have fixed number, embryonically all these things are fixed. You can ask me, muscle also have stem cells. These are called as stellate cells. So won't these stellate cells help them to recover if you're not exercising? Some stem cells really, in its own terminology, it doesn't qualify to be a stem cell like any other stem cells in the body, but it does contribute, but it cannot maintain. Okay. Now, these are the arrangement. Now look at this. All that we need to understand is, we need to understand the molecular basis of the contraction. That is what we call it as excitation, contraction, coupling. Excitation happens first, then the contraction process has to happen. So we have looked at formation of nerve action or conversion of nerve action potential into muscle action potential. Once the muscle action potentials are produced on the muscle, what is its role? What does it do?
Calcium.
Huh?
Calcium channel.
It depolarizes whole muscle per se. It depolarizes the muscle. To understand that concept, somebody told me that it increases calcium, or it opens up the calcium channels. Where are the present calcium channels? In the nerve? From the nerve you have entered the muscle. Muscle in nerve, forget about it. Okay. So we have some knowledge, that is good. Okay, let's see that. Now action potential has produced. Now all the transmission has taken place. It has produced muscle action potential. Now muscle action potential produced here. This is the arrangement. This is a motor neuron here. Okay. And this is the motor neuron. And action potential comes. And these are the vesicles in the motor neuron. And this is the neuromuscular junction. And here the action potential produced. Now this is called as muscle action potential. Okay? Now this is a single muscle fiber, muscle cell. This is a single muscle. The muscle cell is surrounded by a plasma membrane. This is the plasma membrane surrounded by, and it is also called as sarcolemma. Sarco means muscle, lemma means membrane. So sarcolemma is a plasma membrane of a skeletal muscle. Now look at this carefully, these plasma membranes, okay? These plasma membranes invaginate. Can you see a hole here? Can you see holes here on the plasma membrane?
Yes.
What are these? Now these holes, right? Agreed. Now these are the plasma membrane. It has invaginated. Okay, it has invaginated. It goes to the interior of the muscle. It goes to the interior of the muscle. This plasma membrane has invaginated and it goes to the interior of the muscle, and it is T-tube. I mean, it traverses. If muscle is like this, it invaginates perpendicularly. Can you see this? It is invaginating transversely. It is invaginating. Are you getting this or not?
Yes.
No? What is that no? Okay. Did you get this is a muscle cell? Did you get is a muscle cell? Okay, this is a muscle cell, okay? Do you know this is the plasma membrane of the muscle? These are the fibrils, myofibrils, and these are the actin and protein myosin filaments which are arranged, and these are the sarcomeres. These are the sarcomere in each. So these muscle fibrils are surrounded by the plasma membrane, and this is one muscle fiber. Okay, this is one muscle fiber. Now you got it? Okay. So if you look at the motor neuron arrangement, a motor neuron is something like this. This is a motor neuron, and this is the terminal of the motor neuron, and this is the neuromuscular junction. Agreed now?
Yes.
This is the neuron, okay? Motor neuron. And this is the neuromuscular junction. When nerve action potential comes, it releases acetylcholine. There are acetylcholine channels here. Acetylcholine binds. Now, muscle action potentials are produced on the plasma membrane of the muscle. Agreed now? Yes or no?
Yes.
Now, look at the muscle membrane, okay? Now, the muscle membrane arranged very, very definitively. It is surrounding the whole myofibrils. Agreed. Sometimes what happens is this muscle membrane invaginate itself to the interior of the muscle on several places. Now, it acts as a preferential route for the action potential to reach inside. If you don't have this route, muscle is surrounded by the plasma membrane. Only the outer portion of the muscle membrane have an action potential. So what happens to the interior? Interior should receive the action potential to get excited before it undergo contraction. So to enable muscle action potential to travel interior of the muscle, these preferential routes have been created by the invagination of the plasma membrane, and this is what is called as T-tube. Now if you carefully observe, muscle fiber is a cell like any other cell. It has mitochondria, it has nucleus, it has sarcoplasmic reticulum, it has ribosome, everything. But what we are interested here is, we are interested in sarcoplasmic reticulum, because when I asked, now what does this muscle action potential do? You came up with an answer, increase in the calcium. It opens calcium channel. Now to understand that, let's see where are this calcium channel, how does the calcium increase, and what is its requirement for that now. Look at this one now. Now these are your sarcoplasmic reticulum. What is sarcoplasmic reticulum? What does it do?
Storage of calcium.
Huh? One is it stores the calcium. For any cell, sarcoplasmic reticulum is one of the storage for intracellular calcium storage site. Now look at this one. Muscle has lot of sarcoplasmic reticulum. These are sarcoplasmic reticulum, okay? The sarcoplasmic reticulums are arranged on the either side of the invagination of the plasma membrane, okay? On either side of the invagination. Now here it is very clear. This is the sarcoplasmic reticulum. This is the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and it contains lot of calcium. It contains lot of calcium. So on either side of the T-tubule is made up of this invagination of the plasma membrane. Now what happens? An action potential comes formed on the membrane. Now this action potential travels to the interior of the muscle through this T-tubule. Through this T-tubule. Are you getting it or not? Even if you get 50%, it is fine. Immediately go and read, you will be able to. So, you look at this one. When you enlarge this portion, when you enlarge only this portion, what do you see? You see the T-tubule, which is the invagination of the plasma membrane, and on either side, the sarcoplasmic reticulum is arranged. On either side, the sarcoplasmic reticulum is arranged, and let me put it in a blue color here. Inside the sarcoplasmic reticulum, you have lot of calcium. You have lot of calcium inside the. Inside the sarcoplasmic reticulum, you have lot of calcium ions. Okay, it is stored. Now, muscle action potential comes here. Muscle action potential travels. Muscle action potential comes here. Muscle action potential comes here. Muscle action potential, which has formed on the surface, now it has getting to the interior of the muscle. When it gets to the interior of the muscle, now you can see this T-tubule is arranged very closely with the sarcoplasmic reticulum. It influences the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and it influences the sarcoplasmic reticulum. On the sarcoplasmic reticulum, there are calcium channels, and this calcium channel open up. These are called as voltage-gated calcium channel. Voltage-gated calcium channels, otherwise it is also known as ryanodine receptors. Ryanodine receptors. Without this action potential, muscle action potential, it may not influence the calcium channels which are present on the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Now, as the action potential comes here, as the muscle action potential travels to the interior of the muscle, now this is one action potential comes here. It influences the calcium channels which is present on the sarcoplasmic reticulum. It opens. The concentration of calcium in the sarcoplasmic reticulum is so high compared to cytoplasm. When the calcium channels open up, so what happens to calcium now? Calcium concentration is high here. Now it will, from the sarcoplasmic reticulum, it goes into the cytoplasm of the muscle. It goes into the cytoplasm of the muscle. Now, increase in the calcium, cytoplasmic calcium, is the first step in initiating the contraction process. To increase the cytoplasmic calcium, you need to have an action potential which has to travel through to the interior of the muscle, it can only travel through T tubules. Without T tubules, no muscle action potential would have gone into the muscle to increase the intracellular calcium. Now I am asking you, do you understand?
Yes.
Can you tell me?
The calcium increases the voltage of the.
Calcium increases voltage. Which one is that? This is what you understood?
No, I actually.
Tell me it's all.
No, I didn't.
You didn't understand. I realize it. You understood the muscle action potential?
Yes.
You understood what is this T tubules imagination? What is it
Yes.
for?
Yes.
What is it for?
It's for
It's for transportation of this action potential to the interior of the muscle.
Yes.
Now, do you understand how these T tubules and the sarcoplasmic reticulums are arranged?
Yes.
They are very closely arranged.
Yes.
When the action potential travels to T tubule, do you understand it influences the sarcoplasmic reticular membrane?
This is
On the sarcoplasm, that's what I said. See, the thing is, if your concepts are not clear, physiology becomes murky. If the concepts are clear, you are happy, it will stay with you forever. See, now look, this is the sarcoplasmic reticulum. You see here, on the sarcoplasmic reticulum, action potential comes here. On the sarcoplasmic reticulum, you have calcium channels and you have a lot of calcium inside. When the action potential comes here, it influences calcium channel to open. As a result, all the calcium get out of the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and interior of the muscle, your calcium concentration increases. Why it has to increase? Because this is the first step in muscle initiating the muscle contraction. Understand till then. Now let's go to this arrangement of actin and myosin. Okay?